Nerderotic.com.
Welcome back to Nerdrotic. My name is Gary Beekler, and I come to you from Nerdrotic.com, and we need to talk about Star Trek Discovery. No, I have not forgotten about you. Now, you'll have to forgive me. This video will be warts and all. I have zero time to edit today because I was invited to the Boys premiere. VIP premiere from Amazon Prime over in Davis, California with my friend Derek Robertson, who co-created the comic it was based on. So I can't pass that up. And I've got a live stream later with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. Lots of Game of Thrones. I got a Game of Thrones video to cut, so I just need to talk right now. And we need to talk about Star Trek Discovery because there's some pretty big news, and it's related to the Picard thing. Star Trek Discovery has always been related to Picard at this point. The Picard show is the only reason it's still around. If the Picard show did not exist, Star Trek Discovery would not have gotten a Season 3. Yes, it was renewed for a Season 3. But it looks like that might not be happening now. Not so fast, Kurtzman. So my insider, who is the same insider for other channels, has been proved right for a lot of things. And has been wrong on a couple things as well. We'll fully admit that. So you need to consider this rumor. But I will say, Midnight's Edge did a video, link will be in the description, about Picard being picked up internationally by Amazon because it was rejected by Netflix. And being distributed by Amazon and being distributed by Netflix are two completely different things. Amazon is acting like a Hulu for one, and it's going to air 24 hours later. And Netflix treated Star Trek Discovery as a Netflix original. They heavily funded the first season, if not entirely funded the first season, and funded part of the second season, but not as much as the first season, as Midnight's Edge reported from my insider. Speaking of that insider, let's go right to what he said. Now, we've been talking for a couple weeks, so I'll just pick it up here. Breaking news, Netflix walked, Amazon picked up Picard, meaning Picard was rejected by Netflix, meaning they're probably pretty upset about Star Trek Discovery. The following statement is what really caught my eye. Star Trek Discovery canceled. I'm like, what? Well, I've heard this before, and at the time it was true. Some 11th hour thing came in and paid for it, and it was connected to the Picard show. Had this confirmed Star Trek Discovery 100% dead, Picard has no money, massive budget cuts, and not one licensee. Everyone walked from the licensee meeting. Not one toy person. They are proceeding on their own, meaning CBS is going to have to flip the bill for all of this, which they could certainly afford, but they generally don't like to pay for these things on their own. That's why you see lots of producer credits and executive producer credits. They are out of money and can't afford to make Star Trek Discovery. Probably, this is my speculation, because they need to put it into Picard, which is a wise choice. Although you really need to get rid of Akiva Goldsman and Alex Kurtzman, because you're just going to get more of the same CBS. They can barely afford to fund Picard with Amazon, and that is still cutting the budget. Now, there's more interesting news. He tells me to watch the Midnight's Edge video, which I do all the time anyway. The Amazon deal is also apparently on thin ice. They have no way to distribute if Amazon decides to pull a Netflix. Well, it sounds like to me now that Amazon is fully on board, but like I said, they will not be funding Picard to the same tune as Netflix was funding Star Trek Discovery Season 1 and partially Season 2. Space has signed on officially to show Picard in Canada, even though CBS All Access is available in Canada. So why wouldn't you put it on your own streaming service, especially during the streaming wars? Well, they probably need that space money, which isn't a lot. CBS All Access has just gone to Canada. Had Space not signed, it would have probably been on an original on CBS All Access. CBS needs money, he reports. So I ask, is STD still on life support? He says, STD is done. They can't afford to make it. Netflix has the international distribution rights, so they will veto. This, according to my insider. I am not saying this. Please treat it as rumor. They do not have the money that they had from Netflix. And Netflix rejected Picard. It was offered to them first and they said no. That is like CBS rejecting a Captain Kirk show in the mid-'80s. I can't even imagine why Netflix would reject a Picard show unless you've seen Star Trek Discovery. Then you can imagine it. It's made by the same people. They've heard the story. The possibility he might be heading up Section 31 or being in command. What's this almost 80-year-old actor going to do? Now, if they play it like the first Doctor from Doctor Who and a bunch of young people get adventures around him, okay. But we want to see Picard, and we want to see the rest of the crew, which isn't happening, by the way, because they don't have the money for it. They are forging ahead with Picard. We are definitely getting a Picard show. Not saying we're not getting a Picard show, but it will not be, there won't be as much money as they would have had with Netflix. So look for a lot of stagnant sets and dialed back special effects. Those very expensive special effects you saw in Star Trek Discovery Season 1 and in a few episodes of Star Trek Discovery Season 2, very inconsistent effects. You'll see a lot of that in the Picard show. And it is attached at the hip to Star Trek Discovery. Well, obviously, the funds from CBS, which now has to go it alone because all the licensees walked from the Picard show. We're not even talking Star Trek Discovery. From the Picard show. Not a single toy is going to be made from this show. They might, yes, there might be some Eagle Moss stuff and some specialty hobby related stuff. That's not real merchandise. I mean, it's good money. You never want to turn down a revenue stream, but it's nowhere near like selling t-shirts and selling toys and tchotchkes. Remember the days in the 90s where you walk down the toy aisle and you would just see Star Trek stuff everywhere? There's no reason why we can't have that today. Well, there is. Unless, of course, you want to just stick with Kurtzman and Bad Reboot and Secret Hideout, which is just Bad Reboot. I think we can all agree that JJ Trek is a massive failure. Everybody seemed to like the 2009 movie. Even JJ's detractors like myself. I like the 2009 movie as an alternate Trek. But it's not anything I want to buy toys for. CBS, this is just me and you. I want to give you money. I want to buy your action figures. I want to buy your soundtracks. I want to buy your Blu-rays. I want to buy your ships. I want to buy your 1/6 scale hot toys of good characters, of good Star Trek. I don't give a damn who's in it. So all that racist crap. Yeah, you know what? Cast another black female lead. Go for it. Rock on. Would love to see it. Just cast one who can act. Or at least give her some writers. Give her some writers who love Trek. Star Trek Discovery is for people who don't like Star Trek. Star Trek Discovery is made by people who want to turn it into Star Wars. In turn, don't like Star Trek. It's a middle finger to the ideal of Star Trek. Into Darkness is not Star Trek. Star Trek Beyond was not Star Trek. Star Trek Discovery is not Star Trek. Sure, you have your fans. Sure, you're going to go out there and claim it is the most popular streaming service based on Parrot Analytics. Midnight's Edge has talked about this. I will just sum it up. Parrot Analytics just uses the metrics of people talking about a show. So yes, they consider it a positive view that I am doing this video ripping on Star Trek Discovery. Interest is interest. Well, really, it's not. You can't use that metric because a good half of the fan base hates the show. And when half of your fan base hates your show, you need to go back to the drawing board. You don't just focus on the half that likes it. It doesn't work that way. The Star Trek franchise is a business that only exists to generate money for CBS. I understand that. But if you want it to exist longer, if you want to have a legacy, if you want this to go another 5 decades, you need to bring people in who actually give a shit. Not people who just want to use Star Trek as that expensive car that they mostly leave in their garage, they drive on the weekends, and they brag about it at Hollywood cocktail parties. That's all Star Trek means to J.J. Abrams and to Alex Kurtzman. They aren't passionate Star Trek fans. They just want to own a franchise. They don't care what franchise it is. And they want to own all the franchises. They've already got their claws into Star Wars and Star Trek. It's my opinion, and many others, that J.J. just used Star Trek to get to Star Wars. J.J. is the perfect millennial director. He loves to put the cart before the horse. He wants all the accolades, all the merchandise, all the benefits that George Lucas got from Star Wars without actually having to put in the work. And what he does is put in the bare minimum, and he spins it. He's a snake oil salesman, and Alex Kurtzman has learned from him. And we are getting the same thing from Star Trek. We're getting bare minimum. It's very pretty. It's a candy-coated turd. That's all it is. This was supposed to be a news video. Now it's turned into a rant, goddammit. But that's how I feel about it. Respect the fandom. Give them what they deserve. Star Trek was built on passion, not merchandise. The merchandise doesn't come first. The passion does. And you've raised a lot of passion here in the fandom, but not the good kind. But you still can, CBS. You still can. There's a lot of people out there who know Star Trek up and down, backwards, forwards, in their sleep. I've said it here. Rand Shankar, Mark Zickery, Ronald D. Moore, many, many others who are more than qualified to come in and create great Star Trek and understand it. And you don't need to sink a bunch of money into it. Star Trek has never been expensive. You can save money by bringing in good writers. You got it all backwards, CBS. I give you this information for free. And there's a lot of other people you could talk to that are just fans that will tell you the same thing. You want to win back what you've lost because you're not growing your fan base. Star Trek is aging out, as I've said before. How do I know this? Well, I ran a comic shop for 10 years. I've sold a lot of Star Trek merchandise. Comic books, toys, ships, Eagle Moss. So I know a little bit about that, and the interest has always been finite. There's always been a certain amount of people into Star Trek. And hey, you tried to grow it with the JJ Trek, and that's why I respected it at the time. I understand you made an alternate Trek. It makes sense. You still stepped on canon. But JJ, a bad reboot is like a virus. Once it gets his claws into something, it's not letting go. And again, he just puts out the bare minimum in his films that they look shiny as hell. He remade A New Hope, for Christ's sake, and talked you guys into it. Disney, not you, CBS. But Alex Kurtzman talked you into getting rid of Brian Fuller and sticking with him, and now you're on your fourth showrunner. And you had to put your show 1,000 years in the future past canon. And you ruined the character of Spock, or damn near. It can only get worse. So pull the plug. I would say save yourself a lot of money, pull the plug, do your Picard show, and start from scratch. Again, I want to refer to the Midnight's Edge video that is linked in the description to get news on the Picard show and the funding with that and how it's being distributed internationally and how that affects Star Trek Discovery and how Netflix is completely rejecting Star Trek Discovery, proving Midnight's Edge and my insider right again. But let me give you an example of a show called Winona Earp. It's out there. People like it. I heard I wouldn't like it, but it got renewed for seasons 4 and 5, I believe. But they aren't going to happen because the production company ran out of money. IDW ran out of money. They can't pay for the show. So Sci-Fi renewed it as long as the production company could pay for it. Now, Sci-Fi could come in and fund it at the last minute, but as things stand now, it's not happening. So it's a show that got renewed that's not happening. And that happens a lot. So Star Trek Discovery finds itself in the same situation. It has been renewed by itself, CBS All Access, but now it's going to have to flip the bill. And we will see if that happens. You know, the good fight is one thing. Star Trek Discovery is a whole other thing. And if you can't have licensees paying for your stuff for a genre TV show or film, it's not happening. They're too damn expensive. So we will see. We will see. My opinion, we might see a Star Trek Discovery Season 3. A bare bones one, reduced episode counts. And, you know, I don't know, 1,000 years in the future, you'll probably see a lot of post-apocalyptic, dystopian, you know, people living in tribes and huts, desert planets. Nothing real exciting. that would be it. But that would, probably be exciting compared to the last 2 seasons. Whatever. And it'll probably get delayed. So that's just my prediction. We'll see. We can only hope that we get good Star Trek someday. And that is my hope for the fandom. It is not to see the Star Trek franchise crash and burn. That is not why I do these videos. I do these videos to save Star Trek. Believe it or not. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Like, share, and subscribe. Game of Thrones video coming out soon. Take care.
Nerderotic.com. Please subscribe.